Hello and welcome to Africa News with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. First up, a war on the anti-Balaka is a war on Central African people. Central African Republic's Christian militia say that a crackdown on them is a crackdown for the entire population. Also, we hear from Senegalese singing sensation Youssou N'Dour about his concerns about the deepening rift between the faiths in Central African Republic. And in the last 12 years, a niche market in flower development has kicked off in Ethiopia. That really kicks into gear in the run-up to February 14th, which is, of course, in much of the world, Valentine's Day. But first, a war on the anti-Balaka is a war on Central African people. With international criticism of Central African Republic's Christian militia mounting, the groups have warned the government against launching a crackdown. Now, they first armed themselves against the former Seleka rebels, whose takeover last year sparked the country's current crisis. But since then, the escalation in revenge attacks against Muslims has seen most of the ongoing violence being blamed on the anti-Balaka. Well, President Samba Panza's vowed to rein them in. El Hassim Wan, the director of the African Union's Peace and Security Commission, is in Bangui. He tells us more about the security threats faced in the country.
Clearly, the attacks that took place in early December have heightened tensions among communities, between people of different faiths. There is no doubt about it. At the same time, we believe that most of the activities we are observing on the ground are criminal in nature. Of course, people are hiding behind all types of reasons or pretexts, but they are basically criminals who are trying to loot, to kill, and that, of course, contribute to tensions among communities. There is no doubt about it. But again, we are taking determined action, working with other international forces to deal with the situation.
And what about attacks on MISCA troops by militias? How serious is that, in your opinion?
Well, it's a serious threat. We have been attacked a number of times. We have responded, of course, but we know also that in deploying MISCA, we'll have to face some attacks. So we are prepared and we are ready to deal with the threat.
And how long do you think this crisis will take to resolve to ensure security in the Central African Republic? Well,
I won't be able to put a timeline for you. What I know is that we'll do whatever we can to restore security as quickly as possible. Already some results have been achieved, but we still have some work to do, and that's what we intend to do in the next weeks and months.
France 24, Catherine Norris-Trent there speaking to El Hassim Wan, the director of the African Union's Peace and Security Commission. Well, now, the UN is actually really worried that there's not enough global awareness of the scale of a conflict that has claimed thousands of lives and created hundreds of thousands of refugees across Central African Republic. Well, earlier I spoke to Senegalese music icon Youssou N'Dour, who's recently teamed up with Central African singer Idil Mamba. Now, he's Muslim, she's Christian, and both feature on a song in which they condemn the interfaith violence tearing Central African Republic apart. Have a listen.
We saw people dying, this conflict is too much, it's really too much. We say, oh, your music can do something like, but I talked to really Edie, she's very engaged, and then she came to the car, we wrote the song and make sure the song is something gonna talk to people directly, and then now we are in the process to promote the song for people there.
And you're hoping that people can take away a positive message from the fact that you are a Senegalese Muslim and Idil is a Central African Christian.
Yeah, I think really we are trying to bring this symbol, Christian and Muslim, and tell people Christian, Muslim is not obstacle. Is something like riches. You can use it by riches. if I say that, you know, I come in from Senegal, Senegal is 95% Muslim, 5% Christian. The first president of Senegal was Christian. And you know, in Senegal, when Christians have, you know, something, Muslim join them, vice versa. And I really want to bring also this model, because for us, Africa is just one picture. It's not really different country. It's one picture. If something happening in the Central Africa, people from the West have to talk about the experience they have. And Central African people have to receive this message, see how they can together work for different things, not for the religion. Each person have the right to decide which religion I'm going to. And I think really the symbol of, you know, Edil and me, Christian and Muslim, have to really, we want to talk to them about this symbol.
About African leaders, you've said that you think that political leaders or community figures within Africa have a responsibility not to mix politics and religion.
Personally, I think politicians don't have right to use, you know, different things like, you know, religion or ethnic, something like that. They have to talk about democracy, program, how to lead the country, how to develop the country economically, but no right to touch religion or ethnic, something like that.
It's all well and good to talk about living in harmony between the religions, but in Central African Republic, there is a very explosive and unique set of circumstances. There's been a lot of bloodshed from both sides. Do you think that the rift between the communities can be resolved politically?
I think really, you know, we need a lot of elements, you know, security, you know, the ethnic things, you know, the music, art, and different things. Definitely, we use everything together and make sure everything have place, but have place to stop.
Senegalese musician there, Youssou N'Dour, speaking to me a little earlier on. Look now at some other news, though, across the continent. The UN Security Council has extended a political mission in Burundi until the end of the year, as the country faces its worst political crisis since the end of a civil war in 2012. The UN will now stay on until December 31st. The government had wanted the world body out within 6 months of the end of its mandate this month. Meanwhile, the country is dealing with the aftermath of fatal flooding earlier this week.
Several days after torrential rains, Bujumbura residents are still clearing up. In all, more than 60 people were killed, mostly children, and thousands of buildings were destroyed. This man's house collapsed and killed his wife.
I hurt my back, but I still carry him on my back because he refuses to be held by anyone else. He cries all the time. He asks me where his mother is. I say she's at school.
The Red Cross said the poorest areas were the worst hit.
At the moment, we have registered more than 1,000 destroyed homes and more than 12,000 displaced people. As you can see, it has had a catastrophic impact on a large scale.
The authorities are distributing food aid. They fear the number of victims could increase as some bodies are probably still buried in the mud. Burundi is asking its international partners to provide aid for those affected.
We turn finally to Ethiopia. In the last 12 years, a niche market in flower production has developed, an industry that really kicks into action in the run-up to February 14th, which is, in much of the world, Valentine's Day.
It's 7 in the morning. 300 workers arrive at the rose farm to start a big day. The farm, at 2,600 meters, is an ideal location. Within the 8 hectares of greenhouses, production is constant. Every year, 5 million roses are exported. However, now is certainly a special time with Valentine's Day approaching. Over 20,000 flowers will be harvested today.
Here, the cycle is about 80 days, you know. If you cut the rose 80 days ago, 85 days ago, you get it now. So we try to prepare some of the varieties to come mainly the red ones. We are always producing less than the demand.
The Gallica company produces over 60 varieties of roses. When new hybrid colors form, they are given unique names. Although most flower companies are foreign-owned, Ethiopia's flower sector has created over 50,000 jobs, and over 70% of the workforce are women. It is a great opportunity to find a job close to home for the local community without having to travel to Addis Ababa.
I live next door, but I don't have my own land. I plan to work here and then start my own business with my savings. We have great advantages working here. For example, our lunch is provided every day.
Ethiopian flower farmers follow a strict code of conduct and understand they work in a very competitive market. After harvest, each rose is carefully selected, sorted, and packaged. Stéphane Moitié thinks Ethiopia is a safe bet due to its political stability and dynamic economy.
Before shipping, the roses are packed, hydrated, and stored in a cold chamber overnight. Different countries demand different varieties. This one will probably be shipped to Japan or South Africa. The rest, essentially red roses, are shipped to France.
Ethiopia has positioned itself in the world market in just a few years. Here at the Gallica company, a truck collects production every day, which is then shipped by plane straight to international flower shops in time for Valentine's Day.
That wraps up Africa news for me for this hour. I'll be back with more, though, in about 45 minutes. Stay with us, a short break, more news and headlines from around the world coming up. Take care.